Assassin's Creed Shadows game director Charles Benoit has provided an update as to why the game was delayed 4 months. First, it was delayed from November to February, and then more recently, they delayed the game from February 14 now to March 20. And Charles Benoit claims the delay was primarily to improve parkour on Japanese architecture. Roll this up over at phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. Encourage you to head on over, become a paid subscriber. It costs just $5 a month. That's less than a Starbucks coffee. So speaking with IGN, Benoit told the outlet that the delay was, quote, mostly about polishing and that it worked on, quote, a couple of things in progression to make it more engaging, also balancing a bit more. However, he then shared the biggest thing the team worked on was the parkour on Japanese architecture. The Japanese architecture of the roofs are super complex, probably the most complex thing that I ever worked with if we compare to Odyssey and Syndicate. We needed specific codes and specific animations to support something super fluid, changing the transition of the parkour to make it even more fluid. So that's one of the specific feedback that we heard that we wanted to address, and it really improved since the last few months. So that's what he's saying was the primary reason as to why this game has been delayed 4 months from November now to March. I don't know if I actually believe this. I don't know if I believe this at all. I think they're making lots of other changes to this game. I think there's story changes that are happening. I think there are specific changes that are happening to Yasuke. We've heard rumors from multiple sources claiming that is the case, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Before we get to that, I do want to go back to what Ubisoft said last year when they originally announced that they were going to delay the game to February 14th. And when they made that announcement, they said, while the game is feature complete, the learnings from the Star Wars Outlaws release led us to provide additional time to further polish the title. So they said that everything was feature complete last year. Like, I think this was like October is when they announced this, maybe September. I have to go back and check on that. But that's that's what they said last year. They said it was feature complete. Now this guy's telling me that they had to like bring in specific codes and specific animations to basically redo the parkour. It sounds like they redid it all, right? That's what it sounds like to me. So was it feature complete when they delayed it, or was it not? And they just had to add all this stuff in. I thought we saw some parkour stuff in a lot of the trailers and even in the gameplay they had previously released, and it didn't look terrible. I mean, it looked like an Assassin's Creed game. It looked fine. It looked competent as far as what we've seen in previous titles, right? So this idea that the parkour had to be like super polished, not really buying it. Anyways, Ubisoft also went on and said this will enable the biggest entry in the franchise to fully deliver on its ambition, notably by fulfilling the promise of our dual protagonist adventure, with Naue and Yasuke bringing two different gameplay styles. The company also said we are departing from the traditional season pass model. All players will be able to enjoy the game at the same time on February 14, and those who pre-order the game will be granted the first expansion for free. The game will mark the return of our new releases on Steam day one. So that's what they said when they originally delayed it to February. Obviously, that is not the date anymore. It's March 20. We got more details from Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot during the company's first half 2024-25 earnings figures conference call. He was asked by a BMO investor, on Assassin's Creed Shadows, you guys said you delayed the game. You keep saying it was feature ready, so I am curious, when you went through and looked back at the game, were you guys finding bugs? Looking back, were you glad you moved it? And I think you talked about an extra 20 million euros in development costs from doing this. How is that tracking? And he said, on Assassin's Creed Shadows, what we had said was that on the back of what we saw with Outlaws, we need to really make sure that we come with an impeccable player experience. Of course, there are always some bugs, but we've been focusing and continue focusing on making sure that the day one experience will be well optimized. So it's well documented that Star Wars Outlaws was a buggy mess when it released. There are viral clips with people talking about how great the performance was, how there weren't any bugs, and then the guys like his characters literally falling through the ground, falling through the earth. There's clips of Kay Vess kind of hiding in a singular small patch of grass, and there are like 10 guards that are just standing outside the grass, but they aren't actually going to get her and capture her or kill her or shoot her or whatever they plan to do. They just stood there as the player could go back and forth, grabbing each one of those guys and finishing them off one by one. There were terrible AI mechanics where there was stormtroopers or guards or whatever they happen to be. KVS is like standing right in front of them, and they would turn around, run away, do a U-turn, and then shoot and miss like 5 feet wide. It was absolutely bizarre. There was another clip where it appeared that like KVS had like kind of crashed her motorbike, but it had alerted some stormtroopers, and the stormtroopers were still shooting at the crashed motorbike while KVS was like 20 feet down the hill. There are other ones where the stormtroopers were literally just shooting at a building as KVS is like behind them. So they had clearly been triggered maybe when she ran by or something like that. And they went and just started shooting at the building, and they just caught up in that loop. There was also where there was a mission where you like couldn't even finish it. You got stuck on it, and it was like you couldn't even like open the chest or whatever. It was like looping, and then there was all of the character would just like glide through like the world as well. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess, and it was terrible. Which here they're saying that, of course, there are always some bugs, and they learned this from Star Wars Outlaws. And maybe they were saying that that's how bad this game was, and that's what they were planning to ship. If that's the case, that's absolutely unacceptable, absolutely terrible. Anyways, though, Guillemot went on and confirmed, and yes, you are right, we had mentioned that would translate into about 20 million euros in the total budget, as we've kept a strong level of resources on this last phase of development and polishing. While Benoit claims the delay primarily had to do with the parkour over Japanese architecture, a previous rumor from Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming claimed Ubisoft's fixes included changing some of Yasuke's story and how he's portrayed in the game, fixing architectural details, and ensuring that the game is historically grounded while fitting into the Assassin's Creed universe. So obviously he does point out fixing architectural details. That could be this parkour and stuff that Benoit is now talking to, but he also said they were going to change some of Yasuke's story, how he's portrayed, as well as ensuring that the game is historically grounded. Obviously, massive complaints about that throughout all of 2024 after they really kind of announced this game and had been promoting it. So no comments on that from Benoit to IGN. So I think that there is more to the story than just the parkour, right? It just doesn't really add up that you would delay a game for 4 months, maybe even longer, just to polish your parkour because of the Japanese architecture. Just not really buying it. And I mean, and then like, is the architecture all that different from previous architecture that we've seen, whether that's the Greek architecture in Odyssey, whether that is the Italian architecture when you're looking at Assassin's Creed 2, etc. Is it really all that different? I mean, obviously the design and things are, but when you're at the top of a building, when you're on a slanted roof, like you're still on a roof, right? You're still on a roof. You still got the shingles, etc. It shouldn't all be all that different when you're talking about the game mechanic of the parkour. We also had this from Endymion. He said, one of the things for sure getting removed from Shadows, according to my sources, is indeed the rap hip-hop music for Yasuke. Apparently, Ubisoft brought out a questionnaire, and they were unanimously told that the rap music was tonally wrong and completely unneeded. So if you remember, they released this like promo video of Yasuke like executing all of these like Japanese soldiers and villagers as to a rap music was playing in the background, or a hip-hop song was playing in the background. It was just absurd. And that it was actually offensive that Ubisoft believed Yasuke needed a hip-hop battle theme in a game that was set well before such music existed, and it was only implemented because Yasuke was black. Yeah, I think that's why they did that. Clearly. They are also going to be removing dialogue from the game that, according to my source, told me that it would actually enrage players if they heard it. I wasn't given concrete examples of what kind of dialogue, but the source assumed it may have been Yasuke saying some sort of socio-political pandering nonsense about he was sold by white men or something, and that he hates white men and white supremacy must be abolished and such. They're also removing this because, of course, if that were in the game, it would absolutely be highlighted and used to detract even more people from supporting the game in the future. So those were rumors about what they were changing that came out last year. Now we're hearing that from Charles Benoit, it's mainly this Japanese architecture and parkour. He did say that they did mostly about polishing, and then a couple of things in progression to make it more engaging. Also balancing a bit more. I'm not really sure what you would be doing with balancing. Is there some kind of multiplayer aspect to this game? I know there's like rumors about some multiplayer aspect, although we haven't heard any kind of official announcement on that yet. I think Insider Gaming had that scoop on there being some kind of multiplayer to the game. So maybe that is what he's talking about there when he's talking about balancing, or maybe he's talking about combat balancing or something like that. Unclear exactly what he means by balancing there. But that's the latest from Ubisoft. Game director Charles Benoit claiming that the primary reason for the delay was due to the parkour on the Japanese architecture. I think that is absolutely deflection. Now, maybe they worked on that a little bit, but I find it hard to believe that that is the main reason for a 4-month delay. I definitely have a feeling it has more to do with kind of what Endymion, what Tom Henderson were saying here, changing Yasuke's story, how he's portrayed, ensuring the game is historically grounded while fitting into the Assassin's Creed universe. But at the end of the day, I think that that's just too little too late. I think they already burned a lot of bridges. I think people have already made up their mind. And I've said this time and time again, they probably should have just bit the bullet, released it in November, and tried to get as many sales as they possibly could because of the Christmas season, etc. And instead, now they're releasing it in March. And I just don't feel like they're going to even be able to get to the numbers that they might have gotten at Christmas with the delay here, and even maybe making some of these changes. I just don't think people are going to be willing to give them the chance, given all of the damage that they've done to themselves. The doubling down we've heard from Mark Alexis Cote, the Assassin's Creed executive producer, defending the DEI stuff, saying that Elon Musk broke him mentally and how he was enraged when Musk just said DEI kills art. I just don't. That the hiring of pseudo historians trying to sell their novels and things like this, I just don't feel like people are willing to forget that or forgive them for a lot of that stuff, even if they make these changes, given the fact that they haven't apologized, right? They haven't apologized at all, and they continue to double down on the DEI agenda, as I noted with Mark Alexis Cote in his various appearances at the end of last year. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth. And never forget that everything woke turns to crap.